You are my strength, strength like no other, strength like no other reaches to me. You are my strength, oh, strength like no other, strength like no other reaches to me. In the fullness of your grace and in the power of your name, you lift me up. You lift me up. In the fullness of your grace and in the power of your name, you lift me up. Oh, you lift me up. You are my strength, oh, strength like no other, strength like no other, oh, reaches to me. You are my strength, oh yes you are, strength like no other, strength like no other.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to welcome you all to our virtual Christmas Day service. It is a wonderful time to be alive. It is a wonderful time to be alive. I thank the Lord for this opportunity. We're entering a time of transition, and there is a word from the Lord, and this is very important. During this time, usually we do Christmas messages where we talk about the birth of Christ. But right now, I want to be unconditional for a second. I'm going to reference the birth of Jesus, but I'm going to do it in an unconventional way. I'm going to use a very familiar scripture to make an unusual request and an unusual message at this time. The sermon is coming from Genesis. We're in Genesis 37. The verses 23 through 28. That's Genesis 37, 23 through 28. And it reads, "And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him, and they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty, for there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread. And they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spices and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. Then there passed by Midianite merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. The message tag, or the message focus that I want to use for this Christmas day is the view from the pit. The view from the pit. It's funny how we always dub the enemy when something tragic happens in our life. We always hashtag the enemy whenever there's something going on in our lives. Anything that we see as misfortunate, we always say it's the enemy. I don't know about you, but I don't let people who I know will hurt me, I don't let them in. I'm not really close to the people that I know will hurt me. I'm not Jesus, so Judas is not a friend of mine. So knowingly, we never really let people in our hearts that will hurt us. And even when we do have some kind of person that could be detrimental in our lives, we always keep an eye out on them. I don't know about you, but I always keep an eye out for those people that I don't truly trust. But it's the people sometimes that's closest to you that do the most damage. It's the friends that say they love you that hurt you the most. It's sometimes the people that say they'll pray for you that end up giving you the most harm. I want us to look at this in a way that opens your heart to the understanding of your surroundings. So we have here Joseph. And not to go too deep into the word, you can read this chapter, read the whole chapter in your convenient time. But for right now, I want us to focus on the relationships. You should be able to trust your brothers. You should be able to trust those who they call you brother, who they call you friend, who they call you son or loved one. You should be able to trust those people. But sometimes during the course of life, whether intentionally or whether unintentionally, it's always the people that's close to you that do you the most harm. I've always been curious to understand the differing relationships and how we value relationships. If someone is your friend, you should not wish any ill will on them. If someone is your friend, you should not wish bad on them. But Joseph had a gift. He had a vision. And he shared it with the people who he believed would be closest to him and would embrace him. There was two things with what brother Joseph did. The first thing he did wrong is he didn't value the gift. He didn't value the gift. So when you don't value your gift, sometimes you're lackluster with the people that you share it with. You don't value it, so you just give it away freely. You don't understand what you possess. You don't understand how powerful your message is, how powerful your example is. So let's look into Joseph's relationships. Joseph and his brother they shared a father. Some of them shared a mother. But during this time, they saw his father treat him differently from them. And sometimes when favoritism happens in a relationship, you tend to see what really comes out of people. When people aren't really for you, if you pay attention, you can really see their heart. If somebody is not for you and you stumble and you make a mistake, you find out who's truly on your side because you see who pray for you or you see who pray on you. You see in different situations how people who say they care about you don't often call or don't often pay attention to you when you're doing something. Some people don't support you in the big times in your lives. Now, Jacob loves all of his sons. But it was something about Rachel's son, Joseph, that he saw. Now, before Jacob was in this position where he had sons, he had turmoil in his relationship with his brother. Jacob was considered the younger brother. So because Jacob was the younger brother, I believe he sided with Joseph in this situation. He went through life with a brother who said he was going to kill him. He went through life with morality issues. He went through life overcompensating for what he was trying to accomplish. He tried to help God out. He tried to do things on his own. His name meant supplanter. His name meant trickster. He was a liar. He was seen as a liar. And now when Joseph comes along, now the relationship with his sons is in turmoil because Joseph didn't understand the dynamic that he grew up to be in, to be under. So he didn't give, Jacob didn't give him the information that he needed for his son. So now he growing up in this household with people who say that they love him and they spend all this time with him, but secretly they're waiting for his downfall and they're plotting to see how can we get rid of the one that's the favorite. So let's look into why Jacob favored Joseph. Let's look into the relationship. Jacob didn't have a good relationship with his brother. Jacob ran from his brother. So naturally, when he see the younger one come, and the younger one is from his love relationship. This is the woman he loved. Rachel was the woman he loved. But the dynamic of the relationship posed a problem for Joseph, because Jacob didn't pass down the understanding to say you're going to go through turmoil and it's not going to be the people who on the outside. It's going to be the people inside of the house. Jacob didn't give his son the information that he needed to survive in a place where he was trusting the wrong people. How many of us has trusted the wrong people? How many of us has put our hearts in a situation or gave our vision to somebody who was secretly designed to tear it down? But we realize in Joseph's life that sometimes the worst trouble provides the substance for the greatest testimonies. So let's look at Joseph's relationship with his brothers. His brothers were envious. His brothers were jealous. Why were they jealous? Because their father favored Joseph. And it wasn't like he neglected the other ones to take care of Joseph. It was that they weren't satisfied with their position. They weren't satisfied with where they were in life. So instead of embracing Joseph and teaching him the ways, they would rather tear him down. They plotted on him because of his gift. They tried to destroy him because of his gift. And it wasn't his personality, because we realize in the word that Joseph shared things with his brother. But they were envious. I want to submit this for your understanding. Sometimes people, they don't hate you for who you are. They hate you for how other people love you. Let me repeat that. Sometimes people don't hate you for who you are. They hate you because of how other people treat you. In this situation, the people that should have brought him up and teach him the ways of life, his big brothers, supposed to comfort him and protect him and make sure that he's not hurting. The very people that's designed to help you are the people that's hurting you. Can I get a witness? The people that's supposed to lead you and guide you through life and show you the ropes, show you how to react during different situations, these are the people with the knife in your back. And we see in his relationships with his brother, I want us to take from this, sometimes also people don't care if you're blessed as long as they see themselves above you. Joseph's brother wouldn't have a problem with him if they saw himself superior. And in the mindset of brother Joseph, I can understand the things that he was going through, because who can you count on if you can't count on your brothers? And not only did they put him in a pit, but while they put him in a pit, they had dinner to celebrate destroying somebody else. Does that sound like somebody in your life? Does that sound like some people that's around you, that while you're going through, they're celebrating your pain? Lord, deliver me from those people who see my pain as a moment to celebrate. They believed that they took away his value when they took away the coat. They believed that they took away Joseph's value when they took away the coat. And what they did, in essence, leads me to the first thing I want us to take away. When you're going through life, do not embrace carnality. Don't embrace carnality. I believe most times, and it's unfortunate that in Christian environments, people believe their fleshly existence is their true identity. Let me say that again. People believe that their fleshly existence is their true identity. They represented Joseph with a fleshly possession. They recognized Joseph by what he possessed. And sometimes, unfortunately, even in our lives, we represent ourselves by what we possess in the natural. We buy nice cars not because we want nice cars, but people see us with nice cars. We buy jewelry and we buy clothes not to serve the purpose of covering us and keeping us warm, but we buy clothes to impress others. And sometimes this mindset even seeps into the heart of the church. People in church dress up and they come to church and they show their attendance as a way to show the world who they are. But deep in their hearts, they're not the people that they show up to be. And the church becomes a people that's full of masks. We cover ourselves with nice clothes and we cover ourselves with makeup and weave and jewelry to make us look like we're spiritual and we're not. Because when we enter the doors of the church, the carnality that we face out there, we bring into the church. Let me make it plain for you. If your concern is based upon what the pastor drives, then you're in the wrong business. If you hold back your finances or your time or your talents from the church because it doesn't give you attention, you're in the wrong place. If the evilness that you spread while you're at work and the people at work don't want to be around you, and you bring that in the church and you can't smile or you can't say hi to people, your heart is in the wrong place. You may be in the right building, but your heart is in the wrong place. When we embrace carnality, what we do in essence is we're telling Jesus that we don't need his help. We're telling Jesus that I'm okay. I dress nice, I don't need you. I make money, I don't need you. And not only do your life suffers because now you're separated from God, but now the people who are waiting on you to be an example don't even get a fair example. We have to come to the understanding that when we enter the doors of this church, our heart is open to receive. Because if we don't receive in here, we can't make an impact out there. And I want you to know that leadership compounds, whether it's bad or good. Good leadership under good teaching becomes great. Bad leadership under good teaching becomes worse. If you don't have your heart, if you don't have your mind connected to the Spirit of God, then you're wasting your time with your church attendance. And the thing I like about God is even when we mess up, even when we get our hearts to the place where we're separated from him because we're so full of selfishness or we're so full of attention seeking and we're just going to church and going through the motions because our hearts is not really there. God's gift and God's relationship with you doesn't, God is still faithful to his promise regardless of your faults. Let me say that again. God is still faithful to his promise regardless of your faults. But the problem with Christians and Christianity is we get so stuck in the place of grace that we just soak up grace without giving grace. And we make grace of non-effect when we don't use it for its proper potential. Joseph's brothers, if they would have valued what he had in him, they would have understood how valuable he was to them. When we downgrade people's gifts, when we downgrade people's talents, we do a disservice to ourselves. There might be a choir member that's sitting out there and can sing like the angels, but because it's so much negativity and because it's so much turmoil and it's so much chaos in the choir, they don't want to be a part of it. People see you outside in the world, and they see you how you act outside of the world. You're evil, you're hateful, you're selfish. Your ambitions mean more than your spirituality. And in those instances, they don't want to be close to you. They don't see you as a spiritual person. They don't see you as a path to Christ. And because of that fact, there's people who don't enter the walls of the church, not because they don't think they need saved, not because they don't think they need Jesus, but Jesus' representatives are showing a bad example. Think about your life. I am not here to judge you. I'm just here to point out the facts. If your life is not reflecting your faith, then your faith is of not effect. If your heart is not connected to Christ, how will you win people to Christ? And what you do is now you develop these relationships with people, because even though the word karma is not in the Bible, you better believe it's reflected through the scriptures. Because the Bible says, be not deceived, because God is not mocked. What a man sow, that a man should also reap. So while you're sitting there being hateful to other people, and you're bringing all of that negativity into the church, and then you wonder why you don't have any successful relationships, maybe you should evaluate your spirituality. If you're at work and you're the only one sitting at the lunch table because people don't want to see you, no matter how much you attend church, if your social life is just church and this building, and then when you come in here, you try to spread that same stuff that you spread out there, be not deceived, because God is not mocked. So this is the situation. What is your view from the pit? When Joseph was in the pit, he could have looked down. And if he looked down, like the Bible said, it was empty, unprofitable, useless. If he'd have focused on the ground, all he would have seen was uselessness, empty. He'd see the words of other people telling him he wasn't going to amount to anything. You're lying. Those visions of yours, you just too ambitious, and this is not going to happen. What you think? We're going to serve you? We don't need you. How many times have people spoke ground words to you? You're unprofitable. You're useless. We don't need you. We don't need your contribution. How many times have we dedicated to ourselves to people who don't value our contribution? Joseph could have looked to the ground. Joseph could have looked to the walls. And the walls of the pit is confinement, it's restrictions, it's limitations. Joseph couldn't see himself beyond the pit if all he saw is the walls. But in the Bible, it says that Joseph looked up. When you look up from the pit, you see possibility. You see potential. You see purpose. And you see destiny. And we have a reflection of this in the words that was written in Acts chapter 2, verse 35. God just wants you to stay with him until I make your enemies a footstool to your feet. And let me explain a little something to you about a footstool. Sometimes I think we get it misunderstood about a footstool. We believe that a footstool is something that you put your feet up on, that you rest on the backs of other people. That's not what a footstool is. Sometimes we see a footstool as something of a place of submission, where we put our feet on the backs of the hardworking people that we serve. But let me tell you what a footstool really is. What a footstool was designed for is they pull the footstool out. And because of whatever limitations you had, whether it was your height or whether it was your stature, when you pull the footstool out and you stood on top of the footstool, you can reach higher than you ever did. So I want us to look at this. The biggest thing I want you to take out of this is in your life, you are not worthless. In your life, you are not unprofitable. In your life, you have purpose. In your life, you have destiny. And you cannot allow the things, pit language, pit circumstances. You can't let these things define you. Because if you let these things define you, you'll feel empty. You'll feel worthless. You'll feel boxed in, confined, restricted. God needs you. The church needs you. Whatever your talent is, God needs you. The church needs you. And maybe he reveals something to your eyes to see. When you see something lacking, instead of you complaining about it and gossiping about it, maybe that's an opportunity for you to step up and say, here I am, Lord, take me. Maybe in the situations where you complain about being in a place and you complain about the church not having a nursery and you complain about the church not having developing Sunday school, maybe that's your opportunity to stand up and use your gift. And it's all right if it's not your gift, because if it's not your gift, all you have to do is support the person that's in that position. If you don't handle the aspects of the church that keeps the church functioning, don't damage the people who do it. If you're not taking on the responsibility of making sure the sound sounds good, the musicians sound good, the choir sounds good, if you're not taking part of it, don't criticize the people who step up to do it. Don't damage the people who are using their gift because you're not using yours. Don't be envious of the people who are in their position because you're not in yours. There's nothing wrong with supporting people.